Music icon Johnny Cash was known for his storytelling that was always masterfully set to music. He wrote of struggles, love, and sorrow. One day, as he traveled across Canada, he wrote a song called "The Girl in Saskatoon." This song prompted a radio contest, and the winner would be Cash's girl in the song. The young woman who won that contest was Alexandra Wiwcharuk. She was an ambitious woman that went from beauty queen to a nurse, caring for those at the local hospital. For a moment in time, she became the envy of many Cash fans as he serenaded her under the bright stage lights. And then everything came to an abrupt end on one tragic night that no one saw coming. Alexandra Wiwcharuk, the girl in Saskatoon, was murdered on May 18, 1962. Johnny Cash was stunned. The girl he had only met briefly touched his heart, and he felt the loss. One night on stage, he brought the lights down and asked for a moment of silence. He vowed to never sing that song again. This is the Alexandra Wiwcharuk Cold Case. It's May 18, 1962. The city is Saskatoon. The small farming town straddles the southern Saskatchewan River in Canada. The people were friendly, and there is almost no crime to speak of, until the evening of the 18th. This is when 23-year-old registered nurse Alexandra Wiwcharuk failed to show up for her night shift at the local hospital. Alex went out for a simple walk before work and vanished. For 13 days, no one could find a trace of her. Then on May 31st, it was reported that Alex's body had been found in a shallow grave down by the river. Unlike so many cold cases that come and go unnoticed, the notoriety from Cash's song would keep Alex's murder fresh in the minds of countless fans and Canadians. 63 years ago, Saskatoon not only lost Alex, they lost the security of a more gentle time, where the community felt safe and untouched by evil. James Kettle was the chief of police at the time and gave this statement: "I am speechless. This is one of the most heinous and sadistic offenses in Saskatoon." I'm sure you're wondering what could have so profoundly affected a seasoned police chief, and what sort of crime could have chilled the town to their very bone and haunted their souls. Using eyewitness accounts and information shared from the investigation, we will now take you through the final hours of Alexandra Wiwcharuk's life. The first important detail of this case that we want to point out before we get into the timeline was the clothing worn by Alex when she was murdered. According to her roommates and others that had seen her that evening, Alex's outfit was very colorful and memorable. She was wearing lime green pants with a multicolored print blouse and a dark green cardigan. Why is this important even decades later? Because brightly colored clothing is more readily encoded into memory. Colors can serve as a sensory trigger that can actually pull up a whole scene from our past. Just the description of Alex's clothes and their colors could bring back a flood of memories from someone who may have come in contact with Alex that evening, and supply police with one piece of information that they are looking for. Now that we have established what Alex was wearing, let's take a look at where she lived and how her evening began. Alex lived here at 1223 7th Avenue North and a basement apartment that was shared with other young women from City Hospital. On the evening of the 18th, Alex's roommate says she started getting ready for her 11:30 p.m. shift at the hospital. They said that Alex bathed and then sat under a hairdryer writing a few letters. One letter was to a sister in Fort Williams, and the other was to a friend in Calgary. These letters were later collected by police and gave no clue as to any stress that Alex may have been under, or suggested that she was unhappy or fearful in any way. At around 8 p.m., Alex said that she was going to take a short walk before work and mail the letters that she had just written. The weather that day had been mild and sunny with evening temperatures in the upper 60s. Like others out for a stroll, Alex must have enjoyed the warmth of the light spring breeze as she made her way to Mead's drugstore to purchase some postage stamps. Her plan had been to drop her letters in a mailbox and go down to the Saskatchewan River to watch the sunset at 8:55 p.m. A pharmacy apprentice remembered seeing Alex at Mead's drugstore at around 8:30 p.m. He said that they had a brief conversation about something that made Alex laugh, and she seemed to be in an upbeat mood. Once she purchased her stamps, she went on her way to mail her letters. The next time Alex is seen is by someone driving by on 33rd Street. The witness told police that Alex was walking along with a tall, well-built man wearing a brown suit. The two seemed to be flirting and appeared to be having fun. Alex then continues to walk on alone towards the river. This is where she is last seen alive. There was a construction site directly behind the area where Alex decided to sit a while to watch the last of the setting sun. She sat on a piece of concrete near the river's edge, and witnesses recalled seeing her hug her knees to her chest as she gazed out across the water. From the witness's description, we can assume that Alex feels safe. The river is a known hangout for young people. Men are fishing, and there are a row of houses nearby. One such fisherman near the weir and two other teenage boys remembered seeing Alex near the river's edge. The one notable detail that all three witnesses gave to police was the presence of a man near Alex. Each of them stated that they saw a man standing above her and to her left side. No one got a good look at his face. The witnesses soon lost interest in Alex and went on with their evening activities. What happened in the hours that followed is unknown. It wasn't until Alex failed to show up for her shift at the hospital that her roommates became aware that something may have happened to Alex. They had received a phone call from the hospital staff reporting her absence, which everyone found unusual because Alex was always very punctual. What was even more alarming was finding her uniform still hanging in her room, and the realization that Alex never made her way back from her walk. At daybreak, Alex's roommates notified her family and police that she was missing. The police never really took the missing persons report seriously. They figured Alex went off with friends or staged her own disappearance. The case was quickly handed over to the Morality Squad. The Morality Squad was a police unit that dealt with gambling, prostitution, drugs, pornography, and other types of behavior. The slow response from police after Alex was reported missing angered family and friends, so they gathered together to start a search of their own. No one knew Alex better than them. They knew that she wouldn't just vanish and leave them to agonize over her safety. Something had happened to Alex, and they scoured the city in a desperate attempt to find her. When Alex didn't turn up, police finally realized that she really was missing and launched a full-scale search of the area. Everyone from taxi drivers, agents at bus terminals, and airport personnel were all questioned. Unfortunately, none of them recalled seeing Alex. Although tracking dogs were used to search 26 miles of the banks along the Saskatchewan River, spring rains had washed away any scent of Alex. Her photo and description were circulated from Quebec to Victoria, but there was no trace of the 5'5", 115-pound raven-haired beauty. Hope and fear became constant companions for all those praying for Alex's safe return, and every day that was met with silence began to chip away at their resolve that they would see her returned unharmed. Of course, nothing could have prepared them for the horror to come. On May 31st at 9 p.m., Alex was found buried in a shallow grave. The story goes like this. Just days after Alex had gone missing, 3 children wandered off in search of worms for their uncle who had been fishing in the river. The boys had gone into a clump of trees located 50 feet east of the intersection of 33rd Street and Spadina Crest, and 100 feet from the water's edge. As they were poking around with a stick, one of the 6-year-old boys found what looked like a hand protruding from the earth. The youngsters raced back to tell their uncle of their discovery. However, the boy's tale was quickly dismissed as a case of youthful tomfoolery. The boys would not be discouraged, and a week later once again repeated their story to a few older cousins who agreed to take a look at what the boys had found. After verifying that the children had actually been telling their uncle the truth, police were immediately called to the scene. It had now been 13 days since Alex was reported missing. The condition of the body made the identification impossible, so Alex's roommates were asked to ID her clothing. The young women never hesitated. The lime green pants and dark green cardigan perfectly matched those worn by their friend. Once the Wiwcharuk family was notified, police got to work on the cause of death and piecing together what happened to Alex. Here are the details from the crime scene. Recent rains caused the earth to settle around the natural depression in the bluff bordering the river where Alex was buried, exposing her hand. The construction site behind the bluff had seen a lot of traffic of people coming and going. Any evidence that may have been there was now compromised. Police Chief Kettle said that there was no indication that Alex had been dragged to the scene, but couldn't rule out the possibility that someone could have driven their car to that location and then dumped her body. Kettle believed that the killer would have to work quickly due to the nearness of homes in the area. It was his belief that the offense was likely committed between the bluff and the river. Alex's body was nude from the waist down. The right shoe was still on, but the left shoe was off and found in the thicket near the body. Her lime green slacks covered part of one leg. The multicolored blouse and bra were ripped down the front, and her dark green cardigan was partially off. Alex's head was covered in dirt and blood, and her hair was matted close to her skull. There was a slab of concrete on her chest, weighing 13 pounds and measuring 10 by 9, and was 3 inches thick. No blood was ever found on the slab, nor did the shape match any of her wounds. It was never clear why it was buried with Alex. Alex's roommate said that she had taken her wallet with her, but it was never recovered from the scene. 30 strands of Alex's hair were collected from the area along with 3 empty beer bottles and broken pieces of concrete. All of this evidence was bagged up and still remains at police headquarters today. Moving on to pathologist's findings, we get a clearer picture of the attack on Alex. Sperm was found inside Alex's body, confirming that she had been raped. Her skull was fractured. She had been hit so hard in the face that it broke her nose and pushed it into the sinuses behind it. Alex's right eye was blackened, and there was so much swelling and discoloration to the right side of her face that she was unrecognizable. One tooth lay loose in her mouth. There were so many lacerations to Alex's head that it was unclear what had caused the injuries. The object could have been something like a hammer used to strike her several times, or a large instrument with a rounded edge that struck one massive blow. Alex's injuries were comparable to someone's skull that would have fallen 15 feet to cause that amount of damage. As horrific as all of this sounds, it's nothing compared to Alex's cause of death. Sand and dirt were found in Alex's mouth, windpipe, oral cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, and upper esophagus. Alex had been buried alive. The blows to her head would have knocked her unconscious, so there was no struggle as she suffocated to death. Alex's digestive tract indicated that she died 1 hour after she was last seen at the river's edge. The time of death was at 10 p.m. It was also noted in the report that there was evidence of a tremendous struggle between Alex and her attacker. Skin was found under her fingernails, and the killer would no doubt have had several scratch marks on him. Let's take a moment to think about this crime. Let's take a moment to try and comprehend all that we've learned. How on earth does someone rape, beat, and bury a young woman in plain sight of fishermen, kids hanging out along the river's edge, and not to mention the several homes nearby? We have 3 witnesses placing Alex looking peacefully out at the river as a strange man looms behind her, and yet no one heard or saw the attack. This killer buried Alex alive, and yet we are to believe that there was not one witness to these events. Either this killer is the luckiest man alive, or a witness has been holding a secret for decades. Chief Kettle was determined to solve the case, but he really was no match for this type of killer. He and his department were unprepared to deal with such a violent crime. It was suggested that detectives from Toronto be brought in to assist with the case. They had far more experience in crimes of this nature, but Kettle's pride stood in the way of doing what was right, and the offer was rejected. Almost 200 people were questioned from Saskatoon all the way till Alberta. For 8 years, leads were followed up on until the case finally went cold in 1970. For 63 years, Alex's murder has been shrouded in mystery. From missing evidence to police corruption and rumors of a political cover-up. Here is a breakdown of just a few of the highlights of the investigation and some more recent updates. Alex's friends and relatives said that she reported seeing a person or persons stealing medications from the dispensary at the hospital. As a result, she had been threatened and felt as if she were being watched or followed. If this were true, it's unclear why Alex would have went out alone that evening, as she feared retribution. Eyewitnesses stated seeing a red sports car in the neighborhood that seemed out of place. The make and model of the car is unclear, and no one seems to have given a description of the driver. Although police had a long list of persons of interest, we are going to highlight just 2 that we felt were most interesting. Up first is Colin Thatcher. Thatcher would have been 24 when Alex was murdered. Some suggest that he dated Alex, and the details of a relationship between the two is unclear. Thatcher's life reads like a novel of politics, mayhem, and murder. 3 months after Alex was murdered, Thatcher married Joanne Geiger. His father became the Premier of Saskatchewan from 1964 to 1971. Thatcher's wife files for divorce in 1980, and after being awarded $820,000, an attempt is made on her life, and no one is ever charged. Thatcher served from 1982 to 1983 as Minister of Energy before resigning 4 days before his ex-wife is found bludgeoned and shot to death in her garage. In 1985, Thatcher was found guilty of his ex-wife's murder after a recording of a conversation surfaces of him discussing hiring a hitman. Colin Thatcher was granted full parole in 2006 after serving just over 20 years for the crime. Many have questioned over the decades if the once wealthy and influential Thatcher could hold the key to what really happened to Alex. Alex's current relationship at the time of her murder was with Hugh Carleton. Police were quick to question him, but he could shed no light on her disappearance. Hugh said he called her the evening she went missing, but a roommate said that she had stepped out to mail a letter. The young man went on to state that he left town the next day with friends and was unaware that Alex never returned home that evening. It's unknown if Carlton's DNA was ever tested or if he was ever a person of interest. As with many homicide investigations, Alex's case is not without its complications. Police have admitted that a lot of evidence in Alex's case has gone missing over the decades. Some of it was thrown away out of stupidity and carelessness, and a lot of what remains has deteriorated over time because it wasn't stored properly. Attempts to obtain a DNA profile failed in 1992, 95, and 2003. In 2004, Alex's remains were exhumed in an effort to acquire further evidence. Through careful examination, hair was found not belonging to Alex. A lab was able to create a DNA profile which was used to eliminate persons of interest in Alex's case. The question that some have come to ask is, how was this evidence missed during the first examination, and how compromised is it? Think of how many people came into contact with Alex's body before she was finally laid to rest. As of today, there has been no match to the DNA profile that has been obtained, and police are revealing very little as Alex's case is still open. Despite the many setbacks, Alex's family continues in their quest to bring her killer to justice, and they are asking for help. Sometimes the smallest detail is all that is needed to solve so many cases like Alex's. If you have any information about the murder of Alexandra Wiwcharuk on May 18, 1962, please contact the Saskatoon Police Service at 1-306-975-8300. Are you obsessed with true crime content? Subscribe now and join our growing community as we analyze and discuss the details of some truly baffling cold cases. Browse our growing library of cold case investigations and immerse yourself in the mysteries that keep us up at night. Subscribe and join the EOJ community today. All it takes is a click.